Welcome to sewing class. I'm Annette Julie, and today we'll be learning how to prepare our muslin cloth for sewing. We're going to be measuring, marking, snipping, ripping, labeling, and blocking our muslin. We're going to be preparing our muslin cloth for 3 projects for sewing class: our practice stitch, seam allowance and hems, and hand sewing. Well, let's get started. We're going to be working on getting an 18 by 18, a 12 by 12, 4 inch by 6 inch, and then here it says 6 inches as far as the width, but might have to take that down to 5 inches because not all of you are going to have 48-inch width fabric. Some of you might have 44-inch width fabric of muslin. So if you take that down to 5-inch width, that's totally fine. But those would be 5 or 6-inch width by 12-inch length. We need 3 of those. So let's get started. Put this over to the side. I have a piece of muslin cloth here. And I only need 18 inches length for the whole set of projects. So here is my selvage edge. There's no loose threads. And here is a ripped edge. It's nice and fuzzy. Here is an edge that has been cut. The threads are easily coming off. So what I need to do is I need to have selvage edge and then 2 ripped edges. So from 1 ripped edge, I'm going to measure down 18 inches. We're going to mark it. Now we're going to go ahead and snip it. Make a little snip right into that seam, that selvage edge. Right through there. Now we're going to quickly rip this to the other side. We're ripping our muslin across. Now this piece we will save till later. It has the cut edge. And this piece is perfect. We've got the selvage edge on both sides and we have ripped and ripped. Let's go ahead and press this. Have a nice hot iron. With water for steam. I love this little mini ironing board. It's so easy to put on top of my kitchen table. Perfect height for making a beautiful video. Or all the way here to the other side. Look, there's that other selvage. Self edge. It's tightly woven. There's no loose threads. There we go. So we've gone ahead and pressed everything. We can take our little ironing board and let's put that aside. We're done ironing for the moment, but we can do more ironing to help us block our fabric. So we are going to go ahead and confirm that this is our 18 inches, and it is. That's exactly what we want. But what we don't want is to keep the selvage edge on. So this selvage edge is a little bit more than 1/2 of an inch. Looks like it's about 5/8. So I'm going to make sure that I rip off about 1 inch. I'm going to mark in 1 inch, and I'm going to snip, and I'm going to rip off the selvage edge. Got away from me there for a second. After I rip that, I'm going to have to go back and iron that. But we're going to work on our first piece here that we need an 18 by 18. So we've ripped off that selvage edge. And before we go on, the piece that we just ripped off, our selvage edge, this also helps us to identify our lengthwise grain. And we always need to know where our lengthwise grain is because we cut most clothing on our lengthwise grain. So it's just good to be aware of that. We're going to draw an arrow up and down, and that's going to show us lengthwise grain. Now when we come across here 18 inches, and we measure and mark, this is also our lengthwise grain. They're parallel. Now we're going to go ahead and snip right on that mark that we made. This is now 18 by 18. And let's go ahead and label that this is our 18 by 18. Put this aside for pressing. Go ahead and mark off on your list that you have your 18 by 18 done. Now let's go ahead and measure down 12 inches. Let's go ahead and snip. This is in from where our selvage edge was, and we're going to rip across. Now we are left with a piece that is 6 inches high, and we're going to go ahead and rip these into our 4-inch widths. And then we have a 12-inch piece high, and we're going to rip this into a 12 and some 5-inch widths. So let's go ahead and mark our 12 inches. You can draw your arrows for your lengthwise grain, and you can label this 12 by 12. Let's go ahead and snip in on the mark that you made. Give it a quick rip, and that is ready for one of your, actually your first project. Let's put that aside for pressing. That was our 12 by 12. Here we have our selvage edge, so we're going to have to rip this off. But we are going to go ahead and make our widths here first, and we are going to do 5 inches across. So let's go ahead and mark 5 inches. So we've got 5. And 10. And we have 15. And we'll rip that selvage edge off. Let's snip, snip, snip. There we go. 1, 2, and 3. And this piece you can just keep for a practice stitch. But these are the 3 pieces that we want. Let's go ahead and draw our arrows in the corner. And these are 5 inches wide by our 12 inches long. Arrows in the corner. Let's put in those measurements. Ready for our next project. Put those aside. We have our last piece of muslin, and on this one we're going to rip 4-inch widths all the way across. And we already have the 6 inches on the length. Marking at 4 inches. And we're going to want to make 6 of these. And we're going to have a little bit left over. This is going to be used for our seam allowance project. Almost to the end. Great, let's go ahead and snip and rip. Snip, snip, and you're snipping in about 1/2 inch. Now we're going to quickly rip these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This can be used as an extra piece. We'll go ahead and draw arrows on these and label them as well. There's our lengthwise grain. And these are 6 inches long by 4 inches wide. Now that we've ripped all these new edges, we're going to need to press everything and block them back into shape. There's our arrows, there's our measurements. Now we're ready to press everything. We've got all of our swatches ready. That's the end of part 1, and I will see you in our next video. This is Annette Julie. Thank you.